rockers, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am filming this on photo booth on my MacBook, and the reason for that is because I'm not currently home right now and I only have my laptop and my phone, but we need to get on this because so much is happening by the second and it is just unreal. So if we don't cover it now, we're gonna fall behind and I won't be able to keep you updated, and you know that I love keeping you updated, so let's get into it. So stay hydrated, folks. So if you know, I posted a video about Trisha Paytas going on Keemstar's podcast. It'll be linked below. I would really recommend watching that before you watch this video, because otherwise, this video is not going to make sense. It's not that long of a video. I would go watch it, even for a few minutes, to get a little bit of context and where I'm at with it, what my opinion is right now. So let's get into this. Trisha is getting so much backlash from this, rightly so. Not only because Ethan and Keemstar don't like each other and it's Trisha going against their own family and just being very toxic, but the issue is that Trisha so deeply was against Keemstar last week for his relationship with the new 20-year-old girlfriend, because Trisha has been so affected by the same abuse of power by older men whenever they were younger, but have no problem being able to, smiley or whatever with him, even if they're having a debate against him the following week. So Trisha has now posted a bunch of TikToks because they're getting so much backlash, and whenever someone's TikTok looks like this, where it's just them talking, that means that they know they've messed up, and that is the case here. So let's just honestly get into it. So, again, there's TikToks on here from yesterday with Trisha and Moses, and it just makes me, I've lost all respect for Moses. I know they don't care about that, I know Moses doesn't care about that, but it's like, if my sister was heavily pregnant and you were allowing this abuse to come to the family, alright. But let's hear what Trisha has to say.
Normally I wouldn't even address these comments because
okay, so the comment says, Keemstar, really? I thought he triggered you. I don't know how anyone can defend you. So let's hear what Trisha has to say.
Normally I wouldn't even address these comments because
yeah, you would.
Everyone's so quick to judge, oh my god, you went on Keemstar's podcast just assuming I'm Team Keem, I want to be Keem's friend, I'm on Keem's side. When podcasts are meant to be discussions and going back and forth with someone that you heavily disagree with, and this whole thing.
All right, Trisha. Podcasts are, even if you don't like the person, if you're going on, you're having a debate. Trisha, why did you drop Shane and Ryland? Did you drop Shane and Ryland because they allowed Jeffrey on their podcast? Surely not, because it's just a discussion. It's not that serious. You made multiple videos, talked about it on Frenemies, how they made a deal with Satan, a deal with the devil, if you will, because Jeffrey was on their podcast. But surely that doesn't matter, and someone shouldn't be able to get upset about that, same way maybe you got upset about that, because, it's just a discussion. You're not keeping track of what you said a couple months ago.
Started with me coming for Keemstar's relationship, and I just thought talking about it on a bigger platform. And I've gone on people's podcasts who have triggered me in the past. Gabby Hanna trying to make peace. I met Ethan going on his podcast because he made a video saying that I looked like a corpse in a wrestler. And I do believe he's changed since then, making fun of female presenting people's looks. But I don't know if he would have changed. Maybe he wouldn't have changed if I didn't go on. I just like having discussion.
I don't know if he would have changed. Sorry, that was my phone. I don't know if he would have changed. Are we? Trisha is taking credit for Ethan changing. Perfect. Love it.
With people on podcasts.
Love it.
Everyone take things so personally, and they think they're personal attacks. When I'm my own person, I go on people's podcasts. It's what I did before. It's what I do now. It's what I do, period. People. Normally I wouldn't even. My going on Mom's Basement was not attacking Ethan. I had my own issue with Keemstar. I made the first video towards Keemstar. Ethan inserted himself in it, and his channel got banned. Keem did not do the strike on his channel. Once again, me going on another...
Trisha would have had a completely different opinion of this if Frenemies was still on, by the way. It's important to know.
I'm pro I like to have discussions with people, especially about people I disagree with. I like to have open discussions. I like to have, like, clear air. Again, that's how I met Ethan, was when he did a video trashing me. I tried to go on Gabby's podcast to make some sort of peace. I have my own issues with Kim that I can talk about. Ethan lied to his huge fan base about me wanting to fire crew when that did not happen. He admitted it happened.
Okay, there we go. So that's all you need to know. So Trisha said it's not about anything to do with Ethan, and is now saying something that Ethan did to Trisha that got Trisha a lot of hate, which therefore proves that this is a thing with Ethan.
Screenshot my private text and sent him to his crew.
Here we go.
To villainify me, to make me look awful.
There we go.
If you want to talk about her and people doing stuff out of spite, this Trisha Paytas for Gabby Ann was the first families after our Frenemies ended. In the podcast, they talk about me being the same as Gabby Hanna. This was the most triggering shit for me at the time. I met Ethan. I went on his podcast for the first time after he did a video saying that I looked like a WWE wrestler about to slam down, that I looked like a corpse sitting in my casket. And I still went on his podcast because I believe in having healthy debates with people, discussions, figuring out who this person is. And at the end of the day, it's like my job. It's what I do. I talk to people. I went on Gabby Hanna's podcast after she told my boyfriend at the time that I had herpes. And I went on there because I really genuinely wanted to know she was sorry. She cut a lot of that out. I was like, do you have any remorse about that? Like, don't you see that I was trying to have this discussion about, like, how she couldn't see that was, like, the most disturbing thing someone can do. You think I go on Keemstar's podcast and I'm just like, I love you. You are so good. You don't think I call him out on this shit? Face himself was there. I was like, dude, that's toxic. There's toxic shit. There's toxic shit he's done. I don't shy away from debate and discussion. Ethan hasn't talked to me. We have not talked personally since Frenemies ended. Ethan continues to let people hate on me over lies he told in his videos.
Okay, so is the issue with Ethan then? It seems like there's still an issue with Ethan. So is that fueling anything to do with this? Like, you're making the argument that it isn't, but then you're, like, passively aggressively throwing it in. And also, I want to know if the same logic with Jeffrey going on Round's podcast was enough to say deal with the devil and all this, whatever. Like, so he's allowed to feel that same way about you going on Keemstar. But that's not even my... Can you imagine the uproar if Ethan had done a podcast with Gabby Hanna? Or if Ethan had done an episode with David or Jason? My, oh my. Ooh la la. Like, right?
I told Keemstar straight up, like, I'm not pro-Keem. I said, I'm more team Ethan, I'm not pro-Keem. And we're not going to be friends after this. Like, I say that on the podcast. Like,
besties.
It benefits people a lot more to have... You know what? When Ethan was going to debate Steven Crowder, I was so excited about it because I love when people can have debates and discussions and, like, opposite opinions. That's why I love people like The View and people like Frenemies, because we were opposites that had different opinions. Logan and KSI did a podcast together and got 10 million views. Me and Gabby did a podcast together and it was her most viewed podcast. I think it's healthy to sit down and talk to a person. Especially Keem and Ethan's beef, it's becoming, like, it's always became more serious. They lost sponsors last summer. This summer, they're like, Ethan got a strike. Like, I wish Ethan and Keemstar could, like, talk. Because I think it would help a lot. But I've always gone on people's podcasts. I need to stay relevant. That's how my job has worked. I've gone on...
I appreciate the honesty, but it doesn't really apply here.
Ethan himself has said that he would have James Charles on his podcast. Okay, you're going to have James Charles, who's an actual P word, but you can't have a discussion with Keemstar? Like, I remember everybody was against having Jeff...
It's very weird, because Trisha is implying that Keemstar's relationship with his new girlfriend is so inappropriate. And because of the age gap and power imbalance... And, like, that goes against your argument that you're just making. I can't keep up. Oh, it's so messy. It doesn't make sense, Trisha.
Have a discussion. Like, that is the whole point. You're gonna call out people. You're gonna have issues with people. Like, have a discussion. See where this person is coming from.
What? Have a discussion with them, but you're coming for him for wanting to have James on the podcast, but you're like, have a discussion. No tweet him.
If he had David Dobrik, Jason, I hope he does. Like, I have those discussions with those people.
All right, remember that. Remember Trisha saying, I hope he does invite them on. Remember it. I'm telling you now. Remember that. We will be referencing this clip.
Huge thing. It's just crazy how quick people judge. Like, I'm now pro Keemstar. Like, whenever I ever said that, like, What? Keemstar is very nice in person.
No one's saying that Trisha's pro Keemstar.
The first time I met him, you know, like, I called out gross behavior, the tweeting the pictures. I was like, that is gross. That is gross behavior. Like, why did you do that? You don't make some looks. Like, I call it out. We did our final episode of Frenemies to have, like, closure and peace. And when he didn't air it, I was like, wow, you're going to air my breakdowns, but you can't air one thing that you did wrong? Like,
it's like every one of these videos is ending on, like, Trisha, like, having an issue with Ethan, which just goes to show that that is one of the main reasons that you went on with Keemstar. Correct or not?
I have animosity in me still for Ethan, the way I do with David and Jason. Why? Because they can't admit they did something wrong. Like, I admit I'm in the wrong, but Ethan wasn't perfect in the situation. Neither was David and Jason, and I hang on to that because they don't think they did anything wrong, and they're happy to let people hate on me for something that just wasn't true. He admitted in that final episode that he screenshotted my text and sent them to the crew, and that's where this all thing started. And that he had
and now we are back to square one, where we're talking about the original drama, y'all. Okay.
Some mistakes, but he can never show that. He can never prove that. He has to blame other people and it's just like, and I will always hang on to that resentment. If someone can just admit that there was some wrongdoing, there's some closure, there's some peace, I can move on. And like, that's why I'm still talking about David and Jason to this day, because they can't admit I don't have that closure. And it's not even closure, it's just taking accountability. When someone can't admit their wrongdoings or that they lied about something, or it just frustrates me to no end. I have animosity in me still. So while I have resentment towards Ethan in that last episode...
What's going on? So, are we supposed to believe that Trisha's now making all these TikToks where it's like, you know, I have resentment against him. Like, I'm so angry. But that has nothing to do with me going on Keemstar. I believe you, Trisha. Wowee.
Him just like really not giving a shit that I'm getting so much hate, and the same thing with he did with my sister uploading her TikTok when she deleted it. Like, I do have resentment for that. Not everything I do is about him. It's long gone. The way he inserted himself into me,
it's long gone. But you're I'm like trying to, okay, anyone who's not Trisha, just like close your ears for a second. Trisha, if you're saying that, like, all of your resentment is, like, long gone and, like, you don't care about it anymore, don't use the same thing as an argument then, like, 2 seconds later, because it shows that you do care about it. Okay, everyone else, you can take your...
First drama being, like, they're going against each other, like, inserting it into our thing. Like, he did that to himself, you know? So naturally it's going to be brought up because he did a video about it, and that's the video that got removed or whatever. My initial video about Keemstar had nothing to do with Ethan. I didn't mention Ethan in it. He was on a Twitch saying that he knew how much I made on all my websites and stuff, and how this other girl was making way more than me. He's constantly taking jabs at me. His parents talking about my weight. His parents saying I'm just like Gabby Hanna, when he knows how triggering that is to me when I begged him not to. And he puts me in the same freaking thumbnail. And then he did it again. He's been complaining that I talk about him, but then he did it again a week ago, putting my name and picture in the thumbnail. It's the hypocrisy for me. So while I have resentment...
All right. Next one.
Think about this. Ethan had no...
Let's think about it, y'all. Let's think about it. Thought about it. Thanks, Trish.
I get 3 of my mental breakdowns where I literally lost my shit and went out that door. He had no problem. Why? Because I was in the wrong. I was 100% in the wrong of those. And up until the last episode, yeah, I acted shitty. But then that final episode where we're talking peaceful, and he admit he did some shit, and that he straight up lied, because I had him, we sat there, I recorded the whole thing, because I know people fucking edit shit, and I was like, find me this, and he looked, he was searching, he was trying to find where I said I wouldn't show up if Dan was there, I was trying to see where it goes.
Trisha's makeup looks really good here.
It just sucks, because he's like, you know what,
right?
Yeah, I fucked up too, and it's like, that's all, like, I would have needed to hear publicly, but I'm still getting bashed for it. I'm still all this stuff. Even now, me going on a podcast has
this is also cool, this necklace.
I talk about the situation on other podcasts.
Sorry, I'm like examining everything in these videos now because I'm hearing the same repetitive stuff.
It's like, oh, like, this makes me sad. I've been a YouTuber 15 years. I've been around before everybody. This is how I stay relevant. This is what I do. I talk to people. I have discussions. Think about this.
All right.
So I started this. I had an issue with Keem and his relationship because it triggered something in me. I started this video. It was between me and Keemstar. So when Keem's like, will you go on my podcast the same way? Ethan had asked me when we had beef the same way. Gabby Hanna had asked me when we had beef. I said yes. I would go on Jess. I would would go on David's. I would go on anybody that I've had issues with because it can go bad. It can go. I just want to have discussions. I think it's what people should do. Because I truly think people do change, and I think Ethan is the prime example of that. He did a video. The first video he ever did about me was making fun of me, Dana, Nikita, saying they look like Twinkies, whales, all this stuff like that. And I do believe he's changed. And you know what? I'm gonna take credit for that. I don't think he was talking about Lana Rhodes.
Jesus. Oh my god.
I'm gonna take credit for that.
I've never heard another YouTuber taking credit for another YouTuber's growth ever. Therapy sessions? No, me. Like,
I don't think he was talking about Lana Rhodes' peanut, all this stuff, just like degrading women based off their looks, right? And he's not like that anymore. And I truly do believe he's changed. And I'm gonna give myself a little credit because I went on that podcast. We did become friends. We had a whole podcast together. And I think he grew and changed. And I think that's the beauty of having discussions with people. So I started this. I don't care how many people just get over. I don't have to get over shit. I don't have to get over shit, whatever. I'm sorry, I don't. This is something that eats at me daily. Not just the hate comments, not just things, but that, like, the way he presented me at the end and just he corrected it at the final episode and then just decided, no, we're going to scrap it because blaming other people once again, never him taking, like, just being, like, that he's a coward. But this is just another gross attempt at making something about him when it's not. We had a shitty ending, but I'm not going on all these podcasts to spite him. I did this before him.
Okay, but this is on the week that H3 got suspended because of the alteration with Keemstar. Are we not seeing that point? Or are we? Are we ignoring it?
I talked about whoever I want to talk about, whoever's affecting me, whatever's going on. Frenemies was a huge thing. Frenemies ending is a huge thing. Like, why can't I have a platform to talk? You talked all you wanted about me. Like, I'm not allowed to talk? And again, I had issues with Keemstar. I've called out my issues with Keemstar. We're not best friends. Like, what? People haven't even seen this episode where Keemstar even admit that he's been ignorant about mental health. We have these conversations on it. Damn. People need to chill. I don't know how
Damn! I like that. That was good energy at the end. My full thing that we're making the issue, though, is, like, the episode's filmed, regardless of how the episode goes. Like, he chose to do it. That's the simple, like, point. Like, is, like, YouTube drama, like, your family stuff now? You know what I mean? Like, that's the crossover here. But that's on you, not us.
There's a second co-host, FaZe Banks, who I've been brutal to. Brutal back to me. I misspoke on him, and I wanted to clear that air too. This is, believe it or not, like, I do have a life outside of Ethan, outside of Frenemies. I had a career before. I'm gonna have a career after. Like, I've been here long enough. I've gone through Shane and Jeffrey and David and Ethan. Like, there'll be another fandom that, you know, I'm gonna be involved in. Like, that's just what I do. That's how I do. I think it's smart. Whatever. But I'm my own person, and I had my own words about FaZe and misspeaking, and I wanted to clear air with him. There was my own stuff I had to get off my chest between me and FaZe. That had nothing to do with Ethan. So it's like, why am I not allowed to do that? Why am I not allowed to do that? It's just the double standard of, like, I'm shaking. It's just such a double standard. It's just, I'm so sick of it. The manipulation, trying to make me look like I'm this horrible person and he's the victim. It's just, I'm over it. Furthermore, there's a second co-host, FaZe. I think Ethan and Keemstar should have a discussion. Even if their hate is real or not. I don't know. I've never got into it with Ethan. We never talked about it on a personal level off camera. Like, if he actually hates him, if it's just for show because he's doing the puppet, he's poking the bear and stuff too. So I don't know if it's just for show, they like the beef, or if it's real. I don't know. Either way, Keem said today that he would be open to talk to Ethan, and they should do it the same way he did the Steven Crowder one. Mine is the bait and switch. But, like, they both film it. Whether that's just for, you know, having the proof or, you know, the clout, whatever it is.
The clout.
Having discussions with someone that you've, like, just don't see eye to eye with, that you think is an awful person, that's big on the plot. Like, it's important, especially now. Do you want to keep losing sponsors? Do you want to keep having strikes on the channel? Like, just clear the air. You don't have to agree with someone. You don't have to like the person. I just don't understand why you can't have a discussion with a person without people being like, oh my gosh, this is awful. It makes no sense to me. I think discussions are important, and I think Ethan and Keemstar should, if you're gonna call out someone and their shitty behavior and their poor behavior, talk to them like we did with Jeff, right? And I think it did get through to Jeff. I mean, he deleted videos. Like, it does get through to people.
Jeff has made fun of both of you because of that since, though.
If you're gonna call someone out and you're gonna disagree with them so vehemently, like, talk to them. I've always been open to discussion. I went back to talk with Ethan to, like, get closure, to get peace. I didn't force him to. He had asked me to do it for the merch, but when the merch sold out or whatever, I don't know. It like just didn't. He just pulled the plug. I didn't force him to. I didn't ask. He asked me. I'll continue to go on other people's podcasts. I have nothing to do with Ethan. This is all my stuff.
Nothing to do with Ethan. The issue is the like family connection here that's making it so awkward, right?
I am my own person with my own issues. I call people out.
With a shared family.
And be like, I'm not going to talk to them, or I'm going to ignore them or block them. Like, I'm, you know, if I'm dealing with shit, yeah, I'm dealing with shit, but I'm in a place mentally where I can talk about tough issues and issues that matter to me. I'm not reading any comments online because, like, the internet is just literally so stupid on so many levels. Like, it is stupid. At the end of the day, it is stupid. But I take pride in not cowering away from people I have disagreements with, people that don't like me. Like, I will always talk to, confront respectfully people that I have issues with, and I call it out. I don't know why people haven't even heard the episode. I'm like, this is awful. It's like, you haven't even heard it. Like, I saw the hate comments going on. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of backlash. I'm not afraid of looking stupid or dumb or
good.
Something. Like, if it is what it is, that's what it is. The first ever H3 podcast, there was a
It is what it is because that's what it is. Ooh, good tattoo. It is what it is because it is what it is.
Many times I looked stupid and dumb and called out, and it was embarrassing. But I went back, and you know what? That's what you do. That's a podcast. That's growth. That's maturity. That's entertainment.
That's maturity, y'all.
He can reach out and talk to me. He has my number if he wants, but he's using me as clickbait and titles and thumbnails still. So what? I don't know. I wore Frenemies merch on the podcast because I said on the podcast that I wore Team Ethan than Pro Q. Like, people just don't understand. Like, oh my God, that's so disrespectful. I love Frenemies. I love what we did. I still stand by it. Like, it was my way of being like, yo, I'm not taking sides, okay? I asked the questions. I was like, oh my God, did you do this? Like, I was asking questions about the situation. I didn't go on there just to be like, I love you, Keeps. I'm like, what? And now I'm turning and I'm getting all this hate because of Ethan's tweet and stuff like that. And it's like, I didn't even do anything. The podcast isn't even out yet. I wore Frenemies.
So just imagine when the podcast is out, Trisha. That's why you're making these videos.
I don't want to drag this out. I don't.
Oh, we are 22 minutes in.
There is still so much resentment and hurt I have from being completely trashed by Ethan on that.
So is that what this boils down to then?
48 hours. He just completely annihilated my character in so many ways. He was totally fine with me, but then just decided to do an absolute hit piece on me. When in reality, he was the one who sent our private conversations to his entire staff the night before we were supposed to film again. And of course they wouldn't want to film with me. Like, why would you send our private conversations to your whole staff? Like, he did that. He admitted that on the last episode of the podcast. I have a lot of bad feelings about that. It does not sit well with me.
We can tell.
All very
we can
fresh.
Tell.
This is something that consumes me on the daily.
It
hurts me so much. And it eats at me so big to be like, just to be lied on. And for everyone being like, how are you never wrong? I'm always in the wrong. I'm always apologizing. I do a lot of wrong shit. I just wish other people could admit the same. Do you know how
we're still
sad
going.
It was that Frenemies was over? Do you know how many times I quit Frenemies and then we film again Monday? Everyone still blames me for Frenemies being over. When in reality, when Ethan out of his own mouth on that last episode said, yeah, like I kind of fucked up, like I fucked it up. Because he sent private messages between us to his crew, which obviously they're going to have to...
Do y'all think he sent private messages to his crew? Because I think we've heard it 10 times.
Feeling about, like, why wouldn't you? But those were meant for me, Ethan. And he showed it to the entire crew. Thus resulting in people not wanting... I was ready to film the next day. I was ready to do it. Thus him telling me, like, oh, don't come film. Like, let's just take a couple days to cool off. Like, all this stuff. When he was the one manipulating the situation and lying about the situation, then lying to the audience saying I wanted the entire crew fired. It still rips me up. It still tears me up so much. And the fact that he admitted it, but because it makes him just a tiny bit guilty in an equal part of Frenemies ending, it's just like, and then this trying to just sending hate my way for literally no reason because no one's even heard the fucking podcast yet. Do you know how... I don't care. He has a way bigger fan base, a way louder fan base. They send me hate. They continue to send me hate. They continue to harass my sister. My sister's not even on social media anymore. She's not on TikTok. She's not anywhere. Because she made a stupid TikTok, deleted it right away, but now it lives on forever on the H3 podcast channel and the highlights. under the title, like, Trisha's sister, whatever. She took it down. She had remorse. She was sorry, and you're still blasting that. Like, the fans are so nasty and so brutal. They run my sister off social media. It's the worst. It's the most negative, toxic fan base, and it flipped in a matter of 24 hours. And now the tweet again. This makes me sad. You haven't even seen the podcast. You don't even know what I said. Like, it's not even out. This isn't a personal attack. I'm my own person. And now I'm getting so much hate again. It's just, that to me is toxic bullying, harassment, taking use of your fan base. Like, you want me out of your life. Like, stop talking about me. Stop putting me as a thumbnail. The title.
I'm sure he does, but y'all are family.
Don't say, oh, I'm dragging this on and talking about when you're doing it too. I'm so frustrated, and it's just so annoying. I kind of don't even care anymore. I'm just logging off. I just don't care. I'm logging off.
Okay,
I don't care.
please tell me you did.
I don't care. Donna Klein, Ethan's mom, I'm so sick of this.
You know what? We will leave that. Because this video is the length of an indie fucking short film right now. We are almost 30 minutes. Oh my god. I have to upload this on hotel Wi-Fi. We will visit that later. Trisha, the issue is great. Have a debate. Great. You're doing it in the wake of, did Keemstar get H3 suspended? Great. Ethan and Keemstar already hate each other. You're making it very clear by going on. You're making it even clearer by them making TikTok saying, yeah, I went on. I don't have an issue with Ethan. I resent him. I really still hate him. But, you know, that has nothing to do with it. It's coming across now like you did it because you were like, right, great attention, which is great. You're admitting that. I appreciate the honesty. I always say that about you. But I think you're seeing now that the backlash is so overwhelming because people are very invested in this that, you know, there was a lot of splitting opinions by all those videos we watched because you were obviously just filming them back to back and then forgot about the thing. But I want to know where you're at with it. Let's talk about it below. I'll see you in my next one.